Carolyn Dube here. What's the play for today? Well, today I'm answering a question that I've gotten quite a bit since I started playing with acrylic gouache. You might have seen my other videos with it. One of the questions, the big one I've gotten over and over again is, will this stuff work on a gel plate? And the answer is yes, but there are some things to keep in mind when you're using it on a gel plate. And that's what I'm going to share with you in this video today. I'm going to take some of the gouache and I'm just going to squirt it right onto the plate. Now with this gel plate, you can probably tell this is not a brand new one. I've had this one quite a long time, so it's very seasoned, shall we say. It's not brand new and right out of the package. And that's going to be important, but I'll talk about why a little bit later in the video. So I've got this thin layer of paint on here, and what's happening is the paint is beginning to bead up. There are places where the plate is sort of repelling or pushing it away and creating these little pockets, these little areas of white. So is it a good thing or a bad thing that the gouache does this on the plate? Well, that's a personal preference thing. It's not really good or bad, it's just a matter of what it does. For me, I really like those little bits of white in there that are sprinkled in. It adds a wonderful bit of serendipity and variety into the print. And when you look at the print as a whole, it just adds a little touch to it. But when I move it a little bit closer, you can see how there are like these little circles, dots, that kind of thing of white. That's where the gouache was repelled or pushed away by the gel plate. To me, gouache's superpower when gel printing is how opaque it is, meaning you can't see through it. So I'm going to take some of the gouache here and I'm going to use it with my Speckles and Spots stencil from over at StencilGirl Products. And I'm putting a nice amount on here, meaning it's not a small amount. See, when I did the purple, I purposely did a thin layer of it so that you could see how it beads apart. But on this one, I'm putting more paint. And when you put more paint on there, it's less likely to do that beading apart stuff. I'm going to take the print that we just made and I'm going to put it on top of this, and you'll see how opaque that teal is when going against the purple. The teal also did not do the beading or the spreading apart the way the purple did, so I'm not going to have a bunch of those little white areas in it. And the reason for that is I used more paint. So that means if you're getting that look of those little areas that are beading up, then just used a little bit more paint. So here it is, just up a little bit closer so you can see how solid the coverage is there with that teal. Now what about the paint left on the plate? Can we get a ghost off of this? Well, I decided to take some red brayer clean-off paper here and I'm going to pull up the ghost print. Because the gouache is so opaque, it will still pop and show up there even when there's a small amount of paint, even though it's going on such a dark color as the red. Of course, there's a limit to what paint can do because once it starts to dry, less of it comes up with each pull, and that's what's happening here. One of the things that I've noticed when people are gel printing is when they understand why something is happening, it changes things. It means that they can make decisions with confidence and the fun goes up exponentially. So I want to make sure that you have that here with this video, and I want to explain one of the key things about using gouache on a gel plate, and that is the age of the plate. So in the beginning of the video, I said that this was not a brand new plate, and there's a reason for that. Because this paint does some beading when you put on, you saw on that purple one that there was a little bit of that beading. If I'd had a brand new plate, there would have been a lot more beading. And that happens because there's mineral oil used in the production of gel plates. And so when it's brand new, there's more of that oil on the surface. As you use your plate, you're removing that excess oil, and then things don't bead up nearly as much. So keep that in mind if you're using gouache on a gel plate. If you've got a brand new plate and you notice that it's getting a lot more of that beading than what you saw in this video, it may be because just how new the plate is. So if you're the kind of person that likes to understand why things are happening with the gel plate, then check out my online gel printing workshops, because that's what I do in those, is I explain to you why it's happening so then you can play with confidence. And you can find all of those over on my website at acolorfuljourney.com. Well, now we're going to take what we know about gouache and use that to make a different kind of print. We're going to do a couple of colors at once here. And yep, got to pull that hair off of the plate before I dive in and do this. I'm putting a small amount of red on here, so that means it's going to be a thin coat of it. And you can already see places where it's starting to bead up. But when I used the stencil, I didn't have the beading problem because I was using more paint. So I'm going to put more paint on here. I'm going to put a second color on and I'm just going to blend it right on top of it. Now some of the plate is still naked down there, so I'm going to put another color on there. And I'm going to put that purple that I love so much, I'm going to put a little bit of it down there. Spoiler alert, on this print, I'm going to have less beading. There are going to be less of those pockets, those little specks of white sprinkled around, and that's because I used more paint. So when I take this print, you're going to notice that the only places we really see that is around the edges. In the center, where there was the greatest amount of paint, those are going to be solid coverage. Now, if you've been enjoying this video, I really encourage you to hit that subscribe button, because in my next video, I'm going to be showing you how I turn one of these prints that I've made in this video into an art journal page. Well, thanks so much for joining me for today's play, and thank you for letting me be a part of your colorful journey.